Hello everybody. This is the video for Monday, November 16th. I'm taping this early because I'm going to be gone. And here's my contact information, and I'm warning you ahead of time. Some of the video content today will be disturbing. You will see dead people. Alright. Here's where we're headed. You're going to Italy today, to scene of a famous disaster where plate tectonics wiped out 2 towns. Okay, here we go. Now, it might seem like I'm jumping around a little bit, and I am a little bit, okay, but I'm going to connect this map that we did on the 6th to how convection currents inside the Earth can kill people up here on the surface. Okay? And it's not a good way to die. Okay? All right. So I'm going to move this out of the way. There will be a decent amount of writing today. I'll try to keep it reasonable. Okay? So today's date is 11/16. And tell yourself, these are video notes. I'm going to move it down. And the video is called In the Shadow of Vesuvius. Vesuvius is the volcano. And this is one of my absolute most favorite National Geographic videos of all time. It's quite old now. This is a copyright 1987. All right, here we go. First thing I want you to do is know where this fits in. Draw a timeline again. We've done this before. If we put 0 here, and this being AD, year of our Lord, and BC, before Christ. Okay, you're over here at 2020 AD. This is back at 79 AD. Okay, this is almost 2,000 years ago. Here we go. Vesuvius is large active volcano on central, I should say west central, on west central Italian coast. 79 AD eruption, buried 2 towns. One you've heard of and one you haven't. Almost everybody's heard of Pompeii. It's Pompeii, and the other one is Hercules City, named after Hercules, the guy in mythology, the strong guy. Herculaneum means Hercules City. Herculaneum. Herculaneum. We're going to compare these 2 cities for how they got wiped out. Okay, I'm going to hit play.
Washed by the placid waters of the Bay of Naples, the region of Campania has long attracted poets and travelers, emperors and kings. 2,000 years ago, writers described Campania as the most blessed land, the
Paradise.
fairest of all regions, not only in Italy, but in all the world. A place where the summers are cool and winters warm, and where the sea dies away gently as it kisses.
It hardly ever gets cold. Stuff doesn't freeze. The crops never die.
The climate and extraordinarily rich soil enabled farmers then, as now, to grow grapes
Stuff grows like crazy.
and up to 4 seed crops a year.
They didn't know it was because the volcano makes great soil.
But 2,000 years ago, few understood that the richness of the soil was a gift from the mountain in their midst, that the mountain was in fact a volcano. Today we know Mount Vesuvius as one of the most famous and infamous volcanoes in history. The most active volcano on the mainland of Europe, it has erupted some 50 times since the Roman era. Looming over a metropolis vastly expanded since Roman times, Vesuvius, the flaming
That
mountain,
smells like rotten eggs or bad farts.
Today, Vesuvius's shadow falls on some 2 million people.
2 million people live right by it. Right by it.
One of the most densely populated urban areas in all of Europe.
That's like the...
Nowhere else in the Western world do such vast numbers dwell in the immediate vicinity.
That's like the population of the Twin Cities.
The American writer Herman Melville wrote that the lesson the places taught the Neapolitans is eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. And the German poet Goethe wrote, a Neapolitan would certainly be a different creature if he did not feel himself wedged between God and the devil. Even an Italian tourist brochure notes that the nearness of death exalts life.
Can you see that? That's volcano damage on that back wall where these kids are playing soccer.
Though most Neapolitans either don't know or refuse to believe that Vesuvius is an active volcano, local scientists are on 24-hour alert.
You know how you evacuate 2 million people in a hurry?
Information from throughout the region is
You don't.
continually monitored.
You can't get 2 million people out of a place in a hurry.
No civil defense plan possible if caught unaware. The goal is to accumulate enough data to be able to develop an early warning system.
You've got to know in advance. Otherwise, you'll never get them out. It would take days to get 2 million people out.
The science of
Okay, this is super important.
tells us that the Earth's outer shell is composed of about a dozen rigid plates that are in continuing motion. The movements cause the plates to clash in several ways. One is called subduction.
You've got to know this.
Grinds beneath another. As this happens, the heat of the Earth's interior creates magma, hot liquid rock.
That's a plate being driven down inside the Earth.
About 80% of the world's volcanoes are formed.
Subduction makes 80% of the world's volcanoes. Okay, get ready.
On the coast of Italy, subduction has created an entire...
Each dot is a volcano.
The most famous in Italy, and perhaps the world, is Mount Vesuvius. Here the power of...
Okay, sorry for the jumpy video screen. Now I'm going to ask you a trick question. Can you see the volcano? Well, of course, Fiscus. Why are you asking this stupid question? Okay, now I'm going to get up. I'm not talking about this volcano. That's Vesuvius. I'm talking about the whole thing is a volcano. Like, no, it isn't. We've been doing landforms in geography. That's not a volcano. It used to be that big round area. I have to back out so you can get the whole thing. That was a huge volcano that blew itself up so much that the ocean has filled in and doesn't even look like a volcano anymore. The biggest blister is called Mount Vesuvius, but the whole thing, look, these little round things, those used to be craters. Okay, this is called the fiery fields over here. That's where all that smoke was coming up that I said smelled like bad farts. Okay, this is the city of Naples. There's a little tiny town here that was wiped out, and a town here that's wiped out. Those are the two we're going to talk about. This one and this one. And I'm sorry about the flicker when I have the pause. Here we go. Hit play.
forces has been felt at Pozzuoli, Naples itself, San Sebastiano, and two towns made famous when Vesuvius buried them in 79 AD.
You can go visit them now.
Millennium and Pompeii.
Pompeii is a huge, huge tourist attraction.
Forgotten for more than 1,600 years, Pompeii is one of the great archaeological sites of the world. As much for its poignant
She's trying to sell souvenirs to these tourists.
historical significance. Lying 6 miles from the foot of Vesuvius, Pompeii was a thriving Roman commercial center of some 15,000 people, specializing in the export of wine, fish sauce, and woolen cloth. Its boundless prosperity was reflected in the name of its main road, Street of Abundance. Kept safe from the ravages of time by the very volcanic debris that buried it, Pompeii is the largest site of the ancient world so completely preserved. In addition to homes and shops, Pompeii had its own marketplaces, baths, and theaters. More than 100 taverns and inns catered to merchants and traders arriving by land and sea from the farthest reaches of the Roman Empire. Bakers were among the busiest tradesmen. Grain was ground into flour and
Those are the flour mills.
turned by animals or slaves. In the oldest known Roman amphitheater, built 100 years before the Colosseum in Rome, 20,000 spectators thrilled to sporting events, gladiator contests, and battles with wild animals. Soon after excavation was begun, Pompeii's name swept the Western world, and its art and architecture had a profound effect on European and American culture. A Pompeii fever compelled painters and sculptors throughout Europe to make pilgrimages here. Neoclassicism was fueled as a major art form and remained the standard for the 18th and 19th centuries.
This was all buried when the volcano took out this town. Look at all the thousands of little pieces of stone.
Pompeians depicted the wine god Bacchus clothed in grapes, as was the fertile Vesuvius itself. With no record of eruption in living memory, they saw it as merely a mountain, beautiful and benign.
And then it killed them.
On that fateful August
Look, look, look.
day in 79 AD,
These are real.
thousands fled the city at the mountain's first outburst. For those who tarried,
These are the people who didn't run away in time.
sudden and violent, a painful, choking death from asphyxiation by
Look at this guy. When he fell to the floor dying, he didn't even hit the floor. There was already like a foot of ash in the room. So when he hit when he fell down, his arm is over a foot up off the floor right here. Okay? Now, it was a horrible, horrible way to die. Painful. Okay? Choking. The picture, if you've got an old school vacuum cleaner that uses vacuum cleaner bags, and it was time to take a dirty full bag out of the vacuum cleaner and put in a new one. Imagine you took out the full bag full of dust and hair and all the yucky stuff from the vacuum cleaner sucked up, and you put your mouth on the bag and had somebody squeeze the bag right when you took a breath, so it could that would kill you. Breathing all that, okay? This guy died choking on ash, which is powdered rock, like hot dust. And it was full of poisonous gases, and it was really, really hot. Okay? This would be a short, very painful way to die. Now, did you see all those other people in the room? Their bodies are gone. What you're looking at is plaster of Paris. There's nothing real here except the shape. Okay? That person's body was destroyed by the sulfur that is in volcanic ash. Okay. So I don't know if you've ever played around with flour, super soft powder, and you can push on it and you can actually see your exact fingerprints in it. That's how fine this rock was, powdered rock that came out of the volcano. And as this hot, heavy powder suffocated them and then buried their whole town, their bodies were packed really tightly in this powder, and it had sulfur in it. And through the years, the rainwater trickling down through this ash mixed with the sulfur and turned it into battery acid, which eats humans. If you ever get battery acid on you, you won't like it. It starts to burn as it eats you, okay? These people were completely dissolved away by the ash, by the sulfur in the ash. Completely gone. But their shapes were still there. In the 1700s, when they found this city, they'd hit these hollow spots and somebody figured out, oh, that was a person. So then, whenever they hit a hollow spot when they're looking for treasure, they'd stop, mix up another batch of plaster, enough for a whole human body, squirt it into the hole and let it harden up, and then you'd have another Pompeii plaster person. That's an artificial fossil made out of plaster of Paris. Now I'm going to hit play.
Their bodies were packed in the dry ash, which hardened over the years into hollow outlines of the dead. When the forms were discovered in the 1860s...
Oh, 1800s, not 1700s.
Creating these faithful images of the victims at their very...
You can even see part of his ear. I'm not going to show it to you, but if you want to Google Pompeii dog, there's a famous Pompeii plaster fossil of a dog that was chained up and it died, and you can see the dog was in agony trying to get away. He's chained up. You can see his chain and everything. It's pretty sad and disturbing, but it's a famous statue. Pompeii plaster dog.
Eight miles northwest of Pompeii is the modern-day town of Ercolano. It is built atop a buried ancient town, Herculaneum, which was silenced in the same eruption as Pompeii. The earliest part of Herculaneum to be discovered still remains hidden underground because occupied homes and stores lie above.
So there's a modern town above the buried town. These guys are going to show you. Look how deep they have to go down this staircase.
Herculaneum had been lost until 1709. Even writings about the once elegant town had disappeared or been destroyed.
So you can see the groundwater on the sides of the stairs. They're going.
The rebirth of Herculaneum began with its accidental discovery by a well digger. Searching for water, he struck instead what turned out to be a Roman theater.
All right. Now, I don't know how much you've ever paid attention in my room, but here's a joke that Hannah Malakowski made last year in class, and I thought it was so funny, I put it on my wall. Okay? So, this town was discovered by accident by a well digger. When he came through looking for water, instead he fell through and landed on the stage of a buried town. Okay? And she said, does that mean you'd actually break a leg? Which is something that people in theaters says, the theaters actors will say to each other, break a leg means do a really good job. Okay? But that's hilarious. Okay? So I don't know if he was hurt when he fell, but it was a decent distance to fall. Imagine you're looking for water and instead you find a buried town and treasure. Okay, you're gonna see something a little bit scary.
When they uncovered marble inscribed with its name.
That says Herculaneum, Hercules City. The bottom line. Here's where, if you look, you'll see a face.
An impression left in the volcanic debris by a statue toppled from its pedestal.
That's where a statue fell over and left a face imprint.
Magnificent treasures were uncovered, and when word of them spread, the ruling nobility of Naples recklessly looted the theater. Tunnels were ordered dug and searched. and a massive hole was cut to haul out the exquisite marble and priceless bronze statues.
All the looting, they had to haul the treasures out this huge hole.
Herculaneum was all but forgotten once again. More than 100 years later, excavating begins in earnest when the fascist government allocates large sums to preserve Roman antiquities.
Here's where they uncovered Herculaneum.
Only then does the ancient
There's a roof.
begin to emerge. Pompeii had been relatively easy to excavate. Yet here at Herculaneum, workers struggled through 40 to 60 feet of material as hard as cement.
You had to use a jackhammer.
Why this difference, scientists puzzled? Why was Pompeii covered by gravel and ash, and Herculaneum by a rock-solid deposit when the two towns were buried in the same eruption? Unlike the commercial center of Pompeii, Herculaneum was a residential and resort town. Built on a low bluff overlooking the sea, it housed between 4,000 and 5,000 wealthy retired citizens.
Small resort town.
Fishermen.
Had a lot of money.
The most notable gathering places in Herculaneum were the bathhouses. Heated by fires and tended by slaves, the baths drew residents almost daily. With separate sections for women and men, the baths were a place to relax, socialize, and conduct business.
It would have been like a country club.
Now, based on records from the past,
You see the volcano in the background.
artist's hand,
Here's what it would have looked like when it was
captured as it
before it was
in
destroyed.
the glorious days of the Roman Empire.
Very classy. This is 2,000 years ago. Look at these statues.
They left us images magnificently cast in bronze. But where were the people themselves?
That's just like the tiger statue,
Few
bronze.
human remains had ever been found, and scholars concluded that surely the people of Herculaneum had successfully escaped.
All right. The expert's opinion was, since they found dead people at Pompeii, but they didn't find anybody dead in Herculaneum, the experts said, well, obviously the people in Herculaneum were smarter and they all got away. They're wrong. You'll find out here in a little bit. Another statue. I'm at 23 minutes. I'm watching the clock.
The extraordinary number of everyday objects provides an intimate look at Roman life. A cloth press in a cleaner's shop. The remains of a bed.
Some of these items came to the Science Museum up to St. Paul. I've actually seen that bed.
A baby's charred cradle.
That doll was on display too. It's a wooden doll, all burned.
Jewelry. Hand hammered from the pure.
Hot enough to burn wood, but not to melt gold. There's a solid gold bracelet.
And costume jewelry of beads, stones, and amber.
Not hot enough to melt glass.
A bronze door knocker.
Yep, I saw that at St. Paul.
Delicately blown glass. Fish hooks and weights. Coiled rope. And perhaps most astounding of all, food.
Food that didn't rot.
Walnuts, freshly baked bread, eggs, and figs.
There was no bacteria. The bacteria was killed in the eruption, so the food didn't spoil. It's all dried out and icky now, but it didn't rot. Okay, we're at 25 minutes. All right, I'm going to leave you hanging here.
In 1980,
You're going to be mad at me.
70 years after the initial discovery of Herculaneum, a skeleton
They found a body.
covered on the site of the ancient beachfront. Then 3 more were found there, igniting the archaeological community. The arched chambers facing the beach had never been explored.
Right by the water,
Now they cried out.
they
for
found bodies.
Yet no one was prepared for the landmark discovery that would destroy scientific theory on Herculaneum's final hour.
You're ready. You're going to see dead people. A whole bunch of them.
Many Herculaneans had not escaped. Huddled together in the dark recesses of the chambers, scores were overtaken by Vesuvius's indiscriminate rampage.
Dozens of them. All right, now, here's going to be the last notes of the day. I'm already at 26 minutes, so it's got to be fast. Okay? So, Pompeii was buried in soft ash. It was so soft you could go treasure hunting with just a screwdriver to pick away looking for treasure. Buried in soft ash. Dozens of dead found. Okay? So the experts said, well, obviously the people in Pompeii were dumb. Okay? Herculaneum was buried in 40 to 60 feet of hard lava. And no bodies were found. Okay? Now that you wrote that, cross that out. Because later, dozens of skeletons found. Okay? The weird thing was, how can one volcano bury you in 2 different ways? You're going to find that out. Okay? All right. That's 27 minutes. I'm going to stop there. We'll continue tomorrow, and it's going to be the coolest stuff ever. They're going to tell you all kinds of stuff about these people based on their bones.